Another component that handles the data and communicates with the customers or the suppliers is people. They are your biggest strength, but also your biggest risk. Not because they are careless, but because they are human. So even with training, there's going to be that one wrong click, that one rushed moment, that one weak password we've been highlighting throughout this whole session, that can lead to a major incident. So how do we get our team members to support each other, support us, and how can we support them? So let's look at practical steps that can be enforced internally in an organization if you've got more than one individual. Let's look at one mechanism that we will all use, which is email. And this is an indispensable communication tool that we use on a day-to-day basis. But managing the information that floods our inboxes can be a challenging task. So what we often see is that people will access the client's email accounts and manage their day-to-day tasks so that they can focus on revenue-generating activities. But what we've actually noticed is that personal messages will slip into their business emails, which is why it's essential to clearly separate personal and business email accounts. And when I say personal, it could be linked to Takealot or any other platform that you subscribe to. So your Takealots, your Sheins, your Temus, all those updates that are linked to a corporate account, that's actually not good, because then what you can't do is you can't enhance privacy, security gets compromised, and also you can't ensure that there's, from a regularity perspective as well, and also improving professionalism and productivity. And again, a clunky mailbox will help you maintain a healthy work-life balance in general. So maintaining a separate personal or business email account will allow you to protect sensitive information. And also having different accounts will limit the potential danger or damage of exposing confidential information in cases of your personal account being hacked because you probably don't have a strong password, you don't have multi-factor authentication for your Gmail account as opposed to what you probably have for the business. So separating these will greatly reduce the risk of accidental sharing information that is confidential for the business, and then mixing it up with personal information when there's unintended recipients that actually require it as well. And also from a record management perspective, a business should have record management programs that help specify how long to keep specific categories of emails, if you've got that in place from a POPI perspective. So in legal disputes, investigations, or audits or companies may need to produce relevant emails as evidence for compliance purposes. So when you have separate business and personal email accounts, your personal emails do not interfere with the records of management policies. Separating these two is very crucial when team members leave. So when you decide to sell the company or whatever the case is, it ensures that you retain the essential business-related email records in that business account, and then can seamlessly transfer to the new buyer, to the new team member, or the company owner that would want to take over the organization as well. I mean, from a professionalism perspective, apologies for that, separating business email accounts will present a professional image to clients or colleagues. It shows that you maintain a distinct identity for your professional interactions. A business email address, particularly your name at yourcompany.com, what that ultimately does, it just simply instills confidence if you don't have that in places yet, in your business partners, and strengthens your brand. So people will tend to deal with you much easier. If you have not been doing it and you've been doing it successfully, that's also good, but it also does add a little level, or if not more, a high level of confidence in that situation as well. We're back here again, but turning on multi-factor authentication for an individual is going to be quite crucial if we have this turned on for multiple individuals in the organization. And as we remember, this form of mechanism, multi-factor, will protect accounts from being compromised. If we're doing this for one individual, imagine how difficult it can be for multiple people that a business owner or a manager would need to handle. If multiple people in the organization, staff members, have a weak password, have weak password etiquette, or they just tend to forget their passwords, or they reuse the passwords as well, it actually increases the chance of a compromise or someone actually accidentally leaking information to attackers or external parties because of the specific weak etiquette. Another thing is that if the going gets tough with password etiquette across a group, there are tools that we can actually leverage out there that actually helps organizations to get that done. In addition to the authentication apps that will send us the two-factor forms. But from a password management, these will help staff members create strong passwords without having to remember them. They will securely store login credentials and other sensitive information like credit card numbers in an encrypted vault, often accessible with only a single master password or biometric if you're using it. And particularly, you'll use them on a phone. These apps will sit on your phone, similar to the previous apps that we spoke about, the multi-factor authentication apps. So if possible and applicable, subscribe to this as a business unit so that it's easy to manage the subscription and the people that leverage the technology to access the passwords that give them access to the platforms that you guys use to do your business. And again, back to this point, it's also important to try and separate business email accounts and business, call it subscriptions, to personal accounts as a rule of thumb from a management perspective. Again, this is a free aspect that anyone can utilize. We're so busy in the day, but providing short monthly training is very important. If you do have the personnel and the time and the expertise, providing training that's even 60 to 90 seconds is more than enough. Short, regular reminders that work way better than long sessions where people are grouped up into a room. The other reality is that most businesses sadly don't have the time to design cybersecurity training, run workshops, or remind employees every month. And most employees don't even have the time to sit through these long sessions. So this is when there's platforms that can be fully automated that you can deploy in your organization. This is an additional cost for organizations, but there's software out there that can automate cyber training, that provide short monthly 2 to 3 minute videos that can be delivered via email to each employee. In addition to that, it'll track who watches it, who needs extra support, who works well for organizations. And what this does, it'll work well for organizations that use Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace or any form of mail solution particularly. And what this will do, this will ultimately help drive and digitally give you insight into the team's digital footprint and help you identify risky team members over a period of time and give you metrics in that situation. When staff members leave, and again, high staff turnover could be a thing that you're probably dealing with. This is also one of the biggest risks for organizations of all sizes. So when an employee leaves an organization, it's always important to remove their access to secure information that could be leaked. And this is simply mailboxes or any platform that they had access to before. I mean, they're departing. Why do we still need to have an active license, which they currently have? So whether the departure was voluntary or involuntarily, failing to revoke the access to software accounts can increase the chances of facing risks like security breaches, intellectual property loss, data theft, or even a non-compliance regulatory fine, if you want to call it that. What we will speak to, I mean, why do you actually need to remove employee access? So some terminated employees, like those who have been let go under unfavorable circumstances, may seek retribution against the organization. So this is assuming that they still have access to sensitive information, company systems, or physical premises. They may cause harm or either intentionally or unintentionally do damage to the organization. So additionally to that, many industry regulators and data protection laws mandate that timely access verification be done for any employee that is about to, well, from a employee termination perspective. So if you fail to remove the access immediately after terminating an employee, it can lead to certain compliance issues in one form or another. So there's about 7 steps that we can actually look at that. So let's just look at simple ones. So if someone's about to leave, these are immediate actions as soon as someone is terminated or is confirmed by HR that it's always great to initiate or access removal or deprovision their process or deprovision their access to those platforms as well. These actions are time sensitive and always need to be coordinated between HR and IT if you do have these two forms of parties. But if you're running this organization as a one-man show, it's always best to try and do this at the point of the situation as well. And then second to that is accounts and credentials. Find all accounts and credentials that are associated to terminated employees, including local or network accounts. If you do have the chance to do that, cloud services, corporate applications or email accounts, reset the passwords or disable the accounts completely so that you can prevent unauthorized access. Former employees actually could knowingly, unknowingly access sensitive information from the past and make changes or extract information for their own gain in one form or another. And if you've given them any forms of devices like laptops, it's always great to retrieve company-issued devices like laptops or smartphones immediately as soon as they're about to leave the organization as well. And that way you actually reduce the exposure from a device perspective, because you will use this device for another employee if that's the case, and also from a data perspective. And from a security protocols perspective, if there are any rules or policies or technical measures that your organization should follow to ensure that data security is adhered to when an employee leaves, always, if you've got one in place, review and update these security policies. If you don't have one, it would be something that I would encourage you to put in place as a standard operating procedure to understand that if someone leaves the organization, in 2 weeks, we should either check, mandate, or assign this task to someone if you've got the extended assistance from an organizational perspective as well. And then ultimately, if you've got physical access, those access cards, revoke them or take them back if possible so that you can actually limit the exposure or any form of unintentional or intentional damage to the organization in any way or form. Another one, which I've seen in my past where I've worked for IT companies as well, is external service providers and partners that your organization may deal with as well. Informing and updating most of your partners that you work with, if you can, informing them that this said party has left the organization and they are unable to proceed and place orders in general, or actually interact with the organization utilizing your business's accounts in any form or way. That is also another thing that I would actually recommend you to put in place when people leave the organization. So protecting your team starts with simple, high-impact habits, storing business files in the cloud so that your data is safe and accessible and recoverable, turning on multi-factor authentication to block most account takeovers for everyone in the organization, and then sharing files using secure links, not email attachments, and then obviously making regular backups for the organization. These steps can generally help strengthen your team's overall security posture. But big companies are saying that cybersecurity budgets are tight, and only 3% feel that they have enough money. Again, this is based on the study that we had across the 1,100 security specialists from the multiple organizations that we interviewed. So if companies that are big are saying this, smaller and medium-sized organizations need smart and affordable strategies to be put in place. So the best cost-effective security setup that we have covered, mostly free from this session, MFA, utilizing the cloud storage capabilities that are probably part of your subscription that you've got at the moment, having a password manager to create passwords and store those passwords safely in a strong password etiquette, call it strategy, automatic device updates. If you can enforce these so that your patches, your machines, your cell phones, and your laptops are not compromised from a virus perspective. And basic cyber hygiene training, if you've got that in place or would like to invest in a tool that actually does that, that's something that you can look into as well. And then another tool, looking at domain authentication so that your customers are protected and don't get fraudulent requests from external parties pretending to be organization as well. But then there are affordable add-ons that you can incorporate that can enhance this. There's email protection, basically, which is still a #1 entry point for cyber attacks. So there are email protection tools that can help protect or block phishing, impersonation, fake invoices, viruses, risky links before they even reach your team. And what this will ultimately do, in addition to everything that we've spoken about, it will reduce the human error, protect your brand, and then also prevent financial loss. Second to that is you do get platforms or tools that have a consolidated backup or archiving capability that will protect your business when data is lost, deleted, or hit by ransomware. Archiving particularly will keep your emails in a safe, stored manner for years so that you can even recover it in a quick format and obviously can even meet the compliance needs. Or even investigate incidents if there's a situation like that. But together, these can ensure that your business can continue to operate, even if there is some form of a breach or a data loss. The third one would be secure messaging or sensitive tools. There are tools out there that can help you send information securely using encrypted communication channels to your customers. that are time, or call it time limit associated, where you can expire them or recall them easily, as opposed to the standard email recalling capability that we all trust, but it often fails us. Number four, these tools can also give you some form of a threat scan, which can analyze your email environment, your domain, for hidden risks that you potentially may not be exposed to, like compromised inboxes, exposed credentials like username and passwords, or unsafe settings that should be looked into as well. This will give you visibility into what attackers may already see and allow you to fix these issues before they turn into a breach. And then ultimately, I mean, what these tools need to give, if you're going to invest in a tool, it needs to help you monitor risky behavior. We spoke about human risk earlier on. Every organization has a few users who will unintentionally click on dangerous links or open suspicious attachments. There are monitoring tools that can help identify these patterns very early so that you can support the right people, improve the training, and then reduce the overall risk. But closing line here is that security doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be intentional. Small, smart safeguards can create big protection for your businesses, for your customers, and your reputation. South Africa has an extensive network of technology providers that can help thousands of businesses, or that actually help thousands of businesses map out their digital landscape, so that you can actually focus on what's important, and that would be, the passion, the creativity, and ultimately the revenue generation. And that's the reason why you actually started this business. All right, so we've covered quite a lot, a few things in reality, even though it's quite a few things, but it's quite a lot. Here's a checklist that can actually help your team or yourselves. Firstly, I mean, just remember this 9 block here. You can take a screenshot of this, 10 on MFA, store files in the cloud, train staff monthly, add email protection if the budget allows, never change banking details over emails unnecessarily, have a notice form that actually informs people how you handle such changes or requests, keep updated backups, set up DMARC, limit access to sensitive files, remove staff access immediately when they leave. So how about maybe we make this or turn this into an easy thing to remember? So I've come up with a one here which is called LSTC. No, this is not a drug, but what LSTC would stand for is lock, store, train, and check, just to help you remember most of the stuff that we've spoken about. And then obviously once you remember these, this will help you build it out. So we've got, from a locking perspective, speaks to MFA, password, DMARC, basically protect the access. Store would be associated to store your information on cloud storage platforms, leverage backups like hard drives to store information independently, ultimately or basically protect your documents. Train, if you can, provide monthly micro-learning, protect the people. And then C for check, if people are leaving the organization, you need to monitor it, remove or revoke the access. These 4 words can help ultimately get to a point where it actually helps save your business. But cybersecurity doesn't need to be complex or expensive. This small, simple habits, if they're done consistently, they can protect your entire organization. If you remember nothing else from today, just remember lock, store, train, and check.